Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm going to be talking about a project that I've been working on for about a year and a half, maybe longer. Now, I've always been an advocate of making the RC hobby more exciting, and one of the things that does that is adding smoke to a model, which is easy to do with an RC jet because they get so hot anyway. All you have to do is pipe in diesel or whatever kind of oil and you get a bunch of smoke out of the back. And actually the same for petrol powered models as well, because the exhaust gets so hot. Again, just pump oil into the exhaust and it spits out a load of smoke. But with electric models such as drones, RC cars, even electric boats, it's much more difficult to get a smoke generator made for it because we don't really have anything hot running. In fact, we don't want anything hot running. So this is a project that I have been working on, as I say, and it's still a work in progress. But essentially what we have got here is a 3D printed box which I designed. Then in here we have got a vaporizer. This is the Nord 4. It's actually called an atomizer, this part. And then a 20mm 5-volt fan. And the idea is that we plug an ESC into here. That will then vary the voltage and current. And this fan here, which actually you can see I've got running separately at the moment, will then blow the air through this device and we'll get some sort of smoke. I've learnt a lot along the way, and you can't use this kind of thing for a plane. But don't worry about that, because I'm working with an RC company to produce a smoke system for model planes and quadcopters that will produce a colossal amount of smoke. But the reason why these vaporizers seem to produce an enormous amount of smoke is actually down to a few factors. The first one is the fact that they are sucking the smoke into their lungs, and much like a bagpipe, the lungs are acting as a storage place. So, you know, you'll be walking along and see this guy or gal and there'll be a plume of smoke, and you'll think, wow, why can't we have that on an RC model? And the answer isn't just that, but of course we don't have anywhere to sort of store the smoke, and essentially we're doing the opposite of what people who use vaporizers do. We are actually blowing out of this and not sucking. Another reason that people get huge amounts of smoke out of these devices is that we have a mesh coil in there, and essentially the device that is attached to it is creating a short, and the mesh coils, they call it sub-ohm, but basically the meshes are just so tiny, which means that they heat up really quick, but they can't be hot for very long because otherwise they would just break. So the devices that these atomizers are attached to usually only let people using vaporizers to use them for around about 10 seconds. Otherwise the mesh in here would get too hot and they would be breaking all the time. In fact, I believe that even just having that limited burst you are still replacing the coils in these things maybe every 3 weeks or so. I don't know, I'm not an expert on that particular subject. So is there something that we can do to stop this coil from overheating and breaking really easily? Well, actually, yes, there is. You see, in the RC world, we have ESCs. So they basically control the voltage via PWM. So my original idea for this guy was I had a exhaust on my RC car that I bought, and it was supposed to puff out a little bit of smoke, and it was absolutely terrible. And I thought, wow, there's got to be a better way than this. And you know, just like everybody else, when you see these big clouds of smoke everywhere with people using these devices, I was like, well, there must be something that we can do. And there is. And so I think there's going to be plenty of applications for this sort of thing, like, say, smoke on an RC boat, or even smoke on an RC drift car. Over the years, I've been through various different designs and also, you know, dual fans, which you would think would help, but it actually doesn't. I've tried different size fans, and this seems to be a pretty good setup. Now, I can probably put a link in the description to the fan, but if you are looking for the atomizer, then just look for the Nord 4. So this is what it looks like inside. It's very simple. You're probably wondering, how did I make this fit perfect? I actually took a picture of it from below, and then you can convert that picture into a PNG, which is like a transparent file, and then you can convert that into a 3D printable file, and I just turned that into a hole, into a box, and it just worked miraculously. Yep, so this is how things are soldered up. These are two separate things, and one of the reasons I wanted to try this, I do have a better solution than this, by the way, is that it is really clean. You see, the fluids that we are using to get the smoke is something called vegetable glycerine. I think that's how you say it. It's used everywhere, skincare, you know, multi-purpose, DIY, whatever. But it produces the most amount of smoke, and it hardly has any odor. So the coil in this one, it is a 0.4, so sub-ohm essentially. The center pin is the voltage, and then the outer ones are the ground. I believe this pod here is designed to snap to a magnetic system, so you can switch these out. I tried to do that. It didn't work, and I didn't want to risk shorting these out here. Obviously, the designer of this system here much better at making these devices than myself. And then as for the fan, we've just got two holes on the top here, and that's it. This is where you fill up the fluid. I just use like a syringe, and that gets that in there. Now you might be thinking, why not two fans? Why doesn't two fans produce more smoke? And I think it's all to do with pressure. I had a fan blowing from this side and one from that side. In fact, I've got the chassis, what do you call it, that here. Hardly produced any smoke at all. I guess either the fans were cancelling each other out, or you know, as soon as I covered that hole up, you got double the amount of smoke out of the thing. So that's when I went for the one fan setup. Now a word on the sponsor of this video. You might have noticed that I've not been uploading as many videos on the channel recently, and one of the reasons is I signed up to Skillshare. Because let's face it, the last couple of years have left many of us in need of a rethink. And there's a lot of awesome projects I've been working on in the background that I can't wait to show you. But they wouldn't have been possible without Skillshare. There's a huge library covering all sorts of subjects, but my favorite course is the Fusion 360 complete course by Michael Freeman, which teaches you everything that you need to know about making your own 3D printable components. Skillshare is ad-free and only costs $10 a month. The first 1,000 people to click the link in the video description will receive a 30-day free trial of Skillshare Premium. Thanks to Skillshare for also sponsoring this video. Okay, let's take a look at a use case scenario for this guy. By the way, I will provide the STL files if you're interested in having a go at something like this yourself. I believe it to be fairly safe because the mesh coils in there, when they get too hot, they just break and it'll just stop working. That's just been my experience. My original idea was to have this in my drift car as a potential exhaust, but looking at how much smoke it could produce, you could definitely use it as, I don't know, maybe a tire smoke simulation for drifting or something like that. This is the brushed ESC out of my drift car, and what we have here is just a couple of connectors. Now, I might be wondering, why is the fan got a separate connector? And I found this out, well, just by trial and error basically, but these fans have a sort of ramp up time. So you would think that, you know, you could connect the fan and also the ESC together, and then when you press the throttle, let's say, the fan starts up and also the smoke will come out. The problem is you're not going to get the most efficiency there because, like I say, there's a spool up time on this fan. This is a 5-volt fan, but it will actually run, I have found at least, on 3S as well. So if you could get, like, say, a buck boost converter or something like that to up it to 12 volts, I've had no problems with this particular fan, actually, or any of the fans, but they're rated for 5 volts. But I guess just like, you know, with quadcopters and motors, theoretically, you know, you can run a 4S motor on 6S, and what we are getting here is just basically more RPM out of the fan. This is your typical nickel metal hydride battery that are used for many RC cars. Obviously lipos are used. These tend to draw less current, and of course you know, there's no balancing either. Okay, so first of all, let's make sure that the ESC is in the off position. Got the battery connected to the ESC here, and we completely, absolutely want to make sure that it's in the right polarity. And now what I'm going to do is connect the fan. You probably won't hear it ramp up because it's going to vibrate on this table, but believe me, it does take a while to ramp up, so really you want this fan running all of the time. So I'm just going to plug this in it and then try get everything out of the way as much as possible, so we can check out the smoke that it produces. So you can hear the fan going there. And then if I turn the ESC on with the switch. I'm going to have to be very quick to find center point, otherwise you're going to get a load of smoke everywhere. So let's turn the ESC on. There you go, you can see straight away. Let's try and get some good shots of the smoke. Are you ready? Check it out. Oh my god, it is filling the room full of smoke. Let me move the camera. It does produce a lot of smoke. Look at that, man. It is filling the place. So yeah, not good enough for an RC plane, I would say, but definitely good enough for an RC drift car. And I'm gonna have to open a window because that's producing a lot of smoke. Sorry about that, had to take a short break because this guy did actually set the fire alarm off. So yeah, make sure that you are in a well ventilated area or even outside when using something like this. Now you might be saying, Andy, how can I use this in a practical way on my model? Well, you could use components that sort of like limit the current and limit the voltage, but the problem is they are usually quite big devices and they're not rated for high amps. So my solution is, well, it's quite an expensive one. However, if you are, you know, down the rabbit hole with RC cars, RC boats, then you're going to want to invest in a decent controller, just like we do in the quadcopter world. One that is programmable and you can do various things. So this is the Fly Sky Noble NB4, and it's got the steering on channel 1, which is fine, but if you check out channel 2, so that's reverse channel 2, but channel 3, you can see it matches the throttle, but I've dialed it down to the same value that I was turning my little servo tester, which, you know, you can do, and it will run all day like that. Great for a drift car. The problem I've got at the moment is the weather is terrible. I usually drive my drift car in the indoor sports hall. Something like this definitely going to set the fire alarm off, which, with it being a school, would trigger straight away the fire service, and it'll be a big waste of time for them. But yeah, there you go. This has been a fun project, man. This is what I absolutely live for. There's going to be more stuff like this coming, as I say, and we're going to be able to get more smoke and more spectacular things for the RC hobby so that we can get more people into it, because why not? It is absolutely superb. Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and thanks to you for watching this video. You can support me on Patreon if you like what I do, because a lot of money and research has gone into this. But as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.